name is Nicole Wilson, and I wrote a short poem-styled story called Love is in the Air, Death is in the Clouds for my personal composition for my FYS 100 class, Watching the Detective. What inspired me to write what I did was Sherlock Holmes, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, The Way You Look Tonight, performed by Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers from the 1936 film Swing Time, and Moulin Rouge by Baz Luhrmann, the 2001 production, and specifically the song Elephant Love Medley that was sung. I chose these inspirations because each one has some form of a love story in it. And love is more than just a word. Love is many, many things. Because love is so complex, I chose to write from a different point of view. I have several characters in my composition, and each one is dealing with love in his and her own special way. I had to read an article, so I chose to read an article, specifically the full book, called The Art of Murder by Raymond Chandler. A quote from his novel is, "If the mystery novel is at all realistic, which it very seldom is, it is written in a certain spirit of detachment. Otherwise, nobody but a psychopath would want to read it or write it." So this is a very bold statement made by Chandler. It is true, but if anyone were to read a detective novel with full attention, they would miss everything. Because you may look at the novel, but the author plays on the fact that you don't observe whenever you're reading. Reading is done as a pastime mostly. As a college student, you read to gain information. But are you sitting down, reading the full paragraph, and analyzing every single sentence that the author is giving you? Or are you just briefly going through, getting the main points that you need, and not paying attention to the rest? Small details in the book can make a huge, huge turnaround in the end. And that's what a detective novel writer wants you to not focus on. Another quote from the book is, "Yet the detective story, even in its most conventional form, is difficult to write well. Books in themselves are very hard to write, but nowadays anybody can get published. You can write a fan fiction online, and suddenly it turns into this huge movie franchise, for example, 50 Shades of Grey. It's not hard to get anything published nowadays, but it is hard to write something well." This is the song that I chose specifically to be my biggest muse. It's the Elephant Love Medley, which I will come back to in the end of my presentation and play for you, but I wanted to give it a special attention. This is Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Star Wars franchise. The story of this movie, which is also a Broadway play, is that he's a poor writer and she's the star courtesan of this club. They fall in love, but they can't be together because they're on two different planets. He sings to her, they sing together, and she dies shortly after. But I chose it because true love can conquer all, and it lives even in death. Even after she is dead, he is still faithful to her for the rest of his life. He writes this story, their story, to her. And that just shows that even after he's gone or you're gone, as long as you had each other in life, you're going to have each other in death. He went on loving her even when she wasn't truly his. She belonged to a different man, but he still cared for her. He was always still right there when she needed him. And the love triangle that existed in life and death was my full inspiration. The song channels the fluidity of love and harm. So the larger purpose of writing a detective noir, it's to teach a valuable lesson in life. What kinds of ideas and thoughts can possibly improve your real life and relationships? What do we read and hear or see in TV shows, movies, music that changes us and how we interact with one another? This is why we teach about justice, what exactly justice means and how you get it. Is there really a way to get justice for something that was done wrong? The woes and joys of growing older are discussed and explained to a younger audience about how much harder life can get. This is mostly written as a young adult, technically story, even though it's a set of short poems, because it's harder for me to get across what I need to talk about to a younger audience. So I chose to challenge myself and write to a younger audience as a way to improve my writing style. We talked about taking on a political stance. the legalization of gay marriage before it was actually legalized, and the legalization of marijuana, justice versus cold-blooded murder, what is considered morally right or wrong. So a basic overview of my story. The time period is present day, easiest to write about. The genre is a series of short 4-line poems building off one another. The advantages to this was that it was easily written and it was very quick. But the short stanzas made it hard to put in detail and description so the audience could follow along easily. My aesthetic is that love is a complex and living thing, but so is death. Don't underestimate it. The creative process was taking the last line of each set and making it the beginning line of the next poem. And I have examples inside of this, that way you can see them yourself. So the overview. These are my 4 main characters. I have Detective Victoria, Edmund, Officer Dante, and Isabel. I chose to only write 4 to reduce the complexity of the story, and it's the same reason I have color coding. Victoria's lines are in red, Edmund's are in green, and so on. So these are my characters. Detective Victoria is in her middle 20s. Her father was a private investigator, but he was killed trying to hunt down Edmund, who is the villain in my poem set. The actress I chose to play Victoria was Louise Brealey from the Sherlock Holmes BBC version, because she acts like a soft-spoken character in the TV show, but I can tell just by looking at her that she can definitely play someone that's a hard-boiled detective if she had to. Edmund didn't kill her father, but he does know who did, and that's why she's trying to hunt him down. She hunts Edmund to finish her father's work, but she also hunts to figure out who the killer is. This is her first stanza. Though I shall never forgive him, I will always consider him my friend. We were all too caught up in things that no one could comprehend. Even though it wasn't religious, every night this past month I would pray. My sides ached where the knife pierced me, where my soul was ripped away. Now we turn to Edmund. He's also in his middle 20s and involved with Isabel. His father had abused him for taking away his wife. She died in childbirth. So he kills men who he feels deserve it. Men who hit women, children, abuse animals, etc. And the actor I chose to play Edmund was Benedict Cumberbatch. I know that he can play a detective, but how does he do playing the bad guy? You saw a little bit of him in Star Trek, but I know that there's more that he could tap into as an actor. He killed his father at the age of 18 for his abuse, and he knows that Victoria is following him. So is there more than a cat and mouse relationship here? His verse goes, my side aches where the knife pierced me, where my soul was ripped away. She took my heart and hunted it down, a jaguar and her unseen prey. My life has ended too quickly, now I watch her suffer from above. I can't believe I didn't realize her feelings, or until now, that I am capable of falling in love. Victoria's sidekick is Officer Dante. He's in his early 30s, and they're actually married. He never completed high school, so he's a bit rough around the edges, and the actor I chose to play Edmund was Joel Edgerton, who played Tom in The Great Gatsby. I chose him because he already was kind of a skeezy character in Gatsby, and I thought he would fit this part. He was trained by her father, and he knows who shot her father, but will she find out? He secretly had a crush on her father, but he never said a word to anyone. And now that the father's dead, he realizes he didn't actually love Victoria. It was the idea of being in love with the detective, the private investigator's daughter, that he loved more, spending more time with the private investigator himself. I can't believe I didn't realize her feelings, or until now, that I am capable of falling in love. It's too late now, so I shall tell you all what I am allowed to speak of. It all started so simple, just another case that needed to be solved. A note left next to her body saying, this is for Detective Victoria, don't get the police involved. Edmund's sidekick is Isabel. She's in her late 20s, and she is also involved with Edmund. She wants to be married, but he says that he can't be tied down. So she stays with him because she doesn't think she has any better option. The actress I chose to play Isabel is Colleen Sexton. She performs on Broadway a lot. Specifically, she performed in a production of Jekyll and Hyde. I saw her as being a good fit for Edmund, not just because of her looks, but because of the way that she presents herself on the stage. She's always confident. She's always 100% sure of what she's doing, but she can play the cat and mouse game very well. She witnessed Victoria's father get murdered and helped because he wasn't exactly a clean private investigator. She hates Victoria for running after Edmund, and she used to work in a shady bar with not so good people, so that's how she has these connections and how she found Edmund. A note left next to a body saying, "This is for Detective Victoria, don't get the police involved." A fairly simple touch, and if the paper caressed water, it would immediately be dissolved. The man who crossed my Edmund had it coming, revealing information about our plans. It went like this. He got very greedy and wanted what we had in our gloved hands. So now the plot overview. Edmund and Victoria have just died. Both dead. And they're looking down at their partners from the clouds above. Each person recounts something about the climactic finale that ended in a double murder. The murder was planned by both of the dead bodies, which you don't know until the very last stanza. Edmund and Victoria also plan a surprising twist at the very end that you'll either see coming or it will shock you. The complicated love triangles that are within this: Edmund is married to Isabel, but he loves somebody else. Victoria is married to Dante, but she loves someone else as well. Isabel loves Edmund, and she doesn't see a life without him anymore. Dante thought he loved Victoria, but it was more Victoria's father and how much he loved both of them that pushed the two together than an actual attraction. So now that the father is dead, he realizes he doesn't love her. He just did it to make her father happy, because he really, really liked her father. So now, here's the song that inspired the whole thing.
Love is a many splendid thing, love. Lift us up where we belong. All you need is love.
Please don't start that again.
All you need is love.
Our girl has got to eat.
All you need is love.
She'll end up on the street.
All you need is love.
Love is just a game.
I was made for loving you, baby. You were made for loving me.
The only way of loving me, baby, is to pay a lovely fee.
Just one night, just one night.
There's no way, 'cause you can't pay.
In the name of love, one night, in the name of love.
You crazy fool, I won't give in to you.
Don't leave me this way. I can't survive without your sweet love. Oh baby, don't leave me this way.
You think that people would have had enough of sad love songs?
I look around me and I see it isn't so. No.
Some people will fill the world with silly love songs.
Well, what's wrong with that? I'd like to know. 'Cause here I go. Love left us up where we belong. Where eagles fly on a mountain high.
Love makes us act like we are fools. Throw our lives away for one happy day.
Heroes, just for one day.
You will be me,
No, it won't.
and I'll drink all the time.
We should be lovers.
We can't do that.
We should be lovers, and that's a fact.
No, nothing will keep us together.
We could still turn just for one day.
and these are my sources cited. Any questions?